So my name's Darren Jubb. My contact details there if you want to email me. Today I'm going to talk about improving your memory. I actually learned some of this quite a few years ago now, but I only started sort of using it recently, so we'll see how it goes. So to summarise what we're going to do today, first thing we're going to do is highlight the problem of existing learning. The way that we've all used to learning can make it quite difficult to remember stuff. As we've been taught, probably most people throughout school and certainly university, you get into a way of doing it that's not fun. So I'm going to introduce you to the linking system for improving your memory, which is, I think, quite a fun way to do it, and it shows how your brain responds to different ways of learning. And then to sort of summarise at the end, how you can use the linking system in a sort of practical way. So first of all, I'm sure we will be familiar with this sort of learning, where you're presented with a list of information and we just try and cram it into your brain. I mean, that's the way you study for a lot of exams and then you forget it after. So I've got a list of stuff here. So there's 12 items. So we've got sheep, fence, snake, skateboard, pig, fishbowl, elephant, fire, mouse and wine glass. Now, completely unrelated items, which is how when you start learning stuff, things seem, if you've got lists of information, a lot of times it's hard to make relations between them, so it's hard to memorise. So if we move on to the next slide, can I ask you just take 20 seconds, in order, how many of those words can you remember?
In order?
We'll give you about 20 seconds, we'll see how you get on.
Blank, completely. I know, if you're going to choose skateboard.
Can we try this again at 10 o'clock in the morning?
So some of you have obviously started, and you've got, I think most people, commonly it's about 7 items at the maximum before your brain starts pushing information out and you start forgetting. So I think some people have got 3 or 4. If I ask you to do it backwards,
Wine glass.
no, wine glasses. Beyond that, it's quite hard. It's almost impossible to do, and that's sort of the point. But the funny thing is, this is the way that, well, I learn. A lot of people learn. You present with a list and you try and force it in. The main reason why it's difficult is because it's not fun. It's boring. It's a list of unrelated words. So what we do in the linking system is you take each item in the list and you make them interact with each other. So here, that's the first 2 items, which I'm sure many people got, sheep and fence. So I've got no handout, so the tool we're going to use is your brain. So you can close your eyes if it helps. But what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that both these items are interacting. So it's sometimes easier to do it in a cartoon fashion, because your brain sort of finds that fun. So what you need to do is imagine the sheep and the fence interacting in some way. So the common way to do it would be that the sheep is jumping over the fence. Try and avoid that. Your brain sort of doesn't respond to sort of common items like, that's why you forget what you're having for breakfast, because it's just a mundane thing. So instead, try and make it as vivid as possible. So I would imagine that the sheep walking up to the fence and getting his head stuck in the fence. So and then try and think about how that makes you feel. So is it funny, or do you feel sorry for the sheep? And that way, your brain, without even realising, is making a link between them and learning. So you can take that on for the rest of the list, and you move from the fence to the snake. So the way I remember that to link those 2 together is if you might imagine a snake trying to do fencing. So trying to pick up at the end of its tail the sword and do some fencing. So that takes you from the fence to the snake. And the next one would be to go from the snake to the skateboard. So imagine this snake on a skateboard going down a hill, and as it goes down, the skateboard gets larger and larger and the snake gets smaller and smaller. And again, if you imagine it as vividly as possible, it's easier to remember. So imagine that when you get down to the bottom of the hill, the skateboard crashes into this giant wooden pigsty and it gets covered in mud. So then we're on to the next bit, which is the skateboard to the pig. So think about the pig coming up to the skateboard that's crashed, and this pig's really muddy and sniffing about. Think about whether or not, for me, there was the mud that I would be like, that was sticking that brain. So so the pig from the pigsty, imagine them going, a big muddy pig going to the fishbowl, and the pig decides that to clean itself it's going to try and get into the the fishbowl. So the pig tries to get in the fishbowl and it gets stuck at the top. So you've got this muddy pig trying to get into the fishbowl. The pig eventually gives up can't get into the fishbowl, gets out of the fishbowl, along comes the elephant. The elephant sticks its trunk into the fishbowl and sucks up all the water, so the fishbowl's now empty. Then imagine the elephant is dressed as a fireman. Got a fireman's hat, fireman's jacket on, and it comes across a fire and uses the water it's taken from the fishbowl and puts out the fire using its trunk. And then to go from fire to mouse, I always for some reason imagine Mickey Mouse with a set of matches trying to light a fire. So then there's the link from there. And the last one, which is probably is going from the mouse to the wine glass. Imagine taking a drink of wine and looking down as a mouse in the glass. And think about how that makes you feel. So now that we've done that, have another go at writing down. I'm starting with the sheep. Have another go at reciting the list and see how much you can remember. I'll give you about 30 seconds for that. Most of these have got most of them, I think. And that works backwards as well. Probably don't have time to do it here, but what you'll find is your brain can do it backwards. And similarly, if I put up 4, your brain automatically just plops in what's missing, and you just find yourself. So all that seems like a little bit of fun and not useful. So how can you turn that into a useful learning technique? Well, the first thing, if you think about your own learning, we've got large amounts of information to learn, and traditionally it's you just sort of read it over and over and over and over again until it goes into your brain. But if you can use this technique to, like, for example, if you've got, in accounting we've got to remember lots of layouts, and you've got to be able to apply the numbers into the layouts. So if you make the process of going from one section to the next section attached to an image or a vivid memory or something, it makes it easier to remember. And then students and yourself can spend less time trying to remember the layout and more time understanding it. So for your own teaching, especially if you're using pictures and slides, I think people often put pictures in their slides, but they don't really make a lot of sense to the information. Whereas if you can make a link between the picture and the information and invoke some sort of emotion in the student, like we did with the images, it'll help them make a link when it comes up in the exam, help them remember. Other skills include presentation skills, like just now, like if you've got set points like in the presentation and you attach an image to the information, you can sort of remind yourself as you go through, make it easier, and it's the beginning of the other memory techniques which we're not looking to go into.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.